Hello and welcome to the Jesus Podcast. How are all my sinners and saints doing out there? My name is Jesus. You can call me Jesus. It's 6:34 in the morning, and I know I said on my last podcast I would do this every uh, Wednesday and Sunday. Didn't work out that way. I'm not perfect. Nobody is. So what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about the 14th Amendment. I want to talk about the Democrats. I want to talk about why all that stuff. But something really came up today that I was completely throttled by. It's that on Thursday, Facebook blocked news feeds in Australia to surprise an escalating dispute with the government, which could be a test for future online publishers worldwide. This is coming from Reuters. And, when one company can control the public forum, that's a problem. When one company or many companies, hold on, I got to take care of my cat. At least I hope she wanted to get down. I'm not too sure. Okay, she just wanted pets. All right. So that's a problem. I am a staunch advocate of freedom of speech. I believe everyone, as long as they're not inciting some type of insurrection or harm of a person or a group of people, then it's fair game. If you're afraid of words, then obviously, in my opinion, you are not. That's what I'm looking for. You're not. You're not either intelligent enough, or you have such a weak mind, or you have such a weak position on what on freedom of speech, that you are incapable of defending your position as to why it should be allowed. Okay, that's enough on that. So that's kind of scary, and I think we should all think about that. It's okay when it's like someone we don't like, but it's not okay when it's you, and we need dissent. So that's all. All with that. That's all I'm going to talk about with that today. So last week, the Congress or the Senate spent an entire week on impeachment, which is kind of ridiculous. And because there is the 14th Amendment, and the third section of the 14th Amendment has to deal with insurrection. So I've gone to these conservative news sites, so I don't want people to think that I have some sort of liberal bias over the situation. The fact of the matter is, I personally believe that the Democrats want Donald Trump to run in the 2024 election, because that will generate a huge amount of money, a large amount of money, not only from the normal donors that they're going to get, but from the American people, or at least the Democratic American people, or people who don't like Trump. You'll have the Never Trumpers, which but yes, they are going to make sure. I mean, let me just read you what this article says, and then you can kind of decide for yourself. This is from the Conservative News Daily. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer did not foreclose on Thursday the option of invoking the 14th Amendment in the U.S. Constitution to bar former President Donald Trump from holding office again. We are first going to finish the impeachment trial, which, was just virtue signaling. It was political theater, because everybody knew the Republican, they needed 17. So you need like 2/3. So the Democrats need 17 Republican congressmen, Republican senators to vote their way in order to impeach. And there's even a legal question as to whether you can impeach a non-sitting president. So, Section 3 of the amendment says that no one shall serve Congress or become president or vice president, among other positions, if they have previously taken an oath as a federal state official, but engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same or given aid to the enemies thereof, right? And in the article, it goes in the actual Article 3. It says that they need a 2/3 vote, but I don't understand. I don't understand why, because everything I read is that they could have gotten it through with a majority. So I'm kind of wondering why I've read so many articles that said they need a majority instead of the 2/3 vote. I'm kind of law professor, and this is from this article is from the National Review. Okay, so law professor Bruce Ackerman and Gerard Megalokoka, I think that's his name, claim that using the 14th Article 3 of the 14th Amendment, finding would be accomplished by a simple majority vote in both houses. So both houses could just a majority vote in both houses, but they don't explain why. So that's I'm gonna read this part right here, and please forgive me that this is being in the. I wanted to get this out because I had a lot of work yesterday. So, Congress can also decide how the legislation will be enforced by elected officials and the courts based on all the facts as they come out. The Constitution prohibits Congress from enacting so-called bills of attainder, which single out individuals for guilt, but in addition to the legislation, we suggest Congress could also pass a non-binding sense of Congress resolution that specify whom they intend to disqualify. This would provide a roadmap for election officials and judges should any people named in those resolutions seek to run or hold public office. And Congress can do this by a simple majority, far less of a hurdle than 2/3 majority in the Senate that removing the president requires. As we learn more in the coming months about who is culpable for the siege, the ranks of those disqualified from office will likely swell. The legislation we envision would allow future courts and decision makers to apply the law that the investigations are complete. Eventually, we should have a 9/11 Commission style report on what's led to these events. The facts marshaled there are deployed under legislation we propose. And that is coming from I don't know who that's coming from. Probably should have read the article more. So the Democrats could have got that. They could have named everybody in that who was in that insurrection and say, okay, you guys can't run for political office, and Trump could have been involved in that. So in that, according to many articles I've read, that would be the thing. Here's another article from conservativedaily.com. Okay, the Democrats don't have the vote to convict on impeachment, but they believe they would have the votes to pass a resolution declaring Donald Trump engaged in insurrection against the United States, thus using the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Seven Republicans voted with Democrats yesterday in favor to convict. Pat Toomey, and they names a whole bunch of them. The Democrats believe they have the votes to pass a 14th Amendment resolution declaring Donald Trump to be a traitor and bar him from ever holding public office again. They are hopeful this can lead to criminal charges against. I don't know if they want to do criminal charges. Personally, I don't think they're going to go through with this. Is my point. They seem to be able to. They chose impeachment, which is actually questionable for a non-sitting president, because I believe they want him to come back. I believe they want him to run in 2024 so they can get all this money, so they can whip up the base, so they can divide us, so they can divide those people who are, Trump acolytes. And I get it, man. When you see things are going crazy and this guy comes around and he talks, straight talk, and he doesn't care what the Democrats or anybody else has to say. He's just going to say what I get it. I totally understand it. I totally get it. Nobody's listening to you. This guy is saying what's on your mind. You think he's the best guy, but, everything is words. Everything nowadays is political theater. I believe this all began when the Democrats, the first year of Obama, or I think it was the second year, when the Democrats just kind of got in there, and they didn't even know what to do when they were in charge. I think they found out, later, after passing such horrible laws, and that and kicking millions of people out of their homes, instead of giving them money, they just gave it. The banks got bailed out. Congress realized, I think our government realized, that gridlock is the best thing for their coffers, is the best thing for the representatives and the senators, because nothing's getting done, and everybody's angry at each other, and they want to donate to make sure that their party gets in to get the legislation that they feel is, the country needs. Unfortunately, that is not what's happening, because you could look at any, polling, any statistics, and find that corporations, lobbyists, 70% of what they want gets passed. Well, citizens ourselves, you and I, only 30%. I mean, look at it this way. We want $15 minimum wage. Like, the entire citizenship, or not the entire, but the vast majority of the citizenship of the United States wants a $15 an hour minimum wage, right? Well, according to Joe Manchin over in Virginia, he's like, nah, it's not going to happen, because, he's got too many special interests in Virginia that don't want to pay people a living wage, and that's disappointing. That's sad, and I wish it wasn't that way. But our leaders want theater. They don't really want to legislate anything. And we've already seen it. $2,000 checks were promised. Now we're getting $1,200 checks. That's not what's promised. They're already putting out there that cannabis is going to be decriminalized, but not illegal, which will kind of open up the floodgates for corporate money to get in, but at the exact same time, the individual person entrepreneur who wants to start a business is not going to be able to, because they're probably not going to be able to have the capital to qualify for all the regulations. Like in California, you need like $1 million to get the various licenses, and then there's only a finite amount of them, and that's the problem. But it's not going to work, because the cannabis industry is one that came from the citizens. It's from the street, and for years and years, they did their best to avoid the law, and to start putting restrictions on them. They're just going to continue doing what they're doing, and only they'll have, they have much more freedom. So whatever. It's a terrible thing. That's my cat in the background. She's hungry, and I'm going to finish this in just a few more minutes. It's 14:16, so I'm going to wrap this up. What I'm trying to say is, you need to call your congressman. You need to call your senator, whether it be state or federal. You need to know who they are. You need to call them and tell them what you want. Tweeting about it or is not going to do it, because they don't care. How do I know? Oh, come here, baby. Come here. Oh, I got her. All right. Okay, I'm just going to pet her, and hopefully that'll That'll calm her down. By the way, this is Chloe. She's my polydactyl cat. You'll have to look that up because I'm not going to explain what it is. She's got mittens for paws. All right, I'm at the 15-minute mark. I just want to say that it's not your fellow citizen who's a Democrat or Republican that's against you. They're not. They're just told by the news media, or the news media is enforcing this demonized version of your fellow citizen, and you need to stop listening to the Rachel Maddows, and you need to stop listening to MSNBC or anybody over on Fox or the Max News Network. They are profiting from division. They are corporate media entities, and the way they make money is, the more you view. And you're not getting news, you're getting opinions. And we need to do more critical thinking. I get the vast majority of my news from Rising. Shout out to Crystal and Sagar, because he's Republican, she's Democratic, but they seem to, they just call, they call balls and strikes as far as I'm concerned. Or at least that's the closest I can find to somebody who's going to call a ball and strike on both parties. I suggest you watch them. They've been very educational to me, and I feel I get a balanced information. I don't necessarily say it's news, but it's balanced information, and that helps out. That's it. That's the end of the podcast. Look up the 14th Amendment. Look up the third section of it. Find your representative at house.gov and senate.gov. And then, I don't know what it's at your state. I forget what it is for the state of California. But do that research. Call them. Talk. Don't yell. Don't be angry because they're not picking up the phone. Their assistants are. And you need to call them, understand, make them, let them understand that you're upset, and know that you would like them to change, be firm, but be polite. There's no point in yelling because they're just having a job. But you get to know them better, then they'll be able to, persuade and use. They're the door to you got to be your own lobbyist is what I'm saying. You have to lobby them so they can lobby your representative. That's the truth. And that's the only lifeline you have to your representative is the person who picks up that phone. Whether it be a senator or a congressman or a House representative. All right. Thank you for listening to the Jesus Podcast. Slap that like button, spank that bell, and if you don't like what I'm saying, slap that thumbs down. I don't really care. It's just me talking at 6:52 in the morning, and I know nobody's listening. So if I can impart any wisdom to anybody who's listening or catches this, fail every day, because you want to fail at something and not succeed at nothing. Thank you for listening to the Jesus Podcast. Thank you for finding my station. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff that I'm supposed to be saying and never do. Cheers.